Hi, colleagues. What do hospitality and trader customers expect from Metro? Of course, customized products at fair wholesale prices. And they want a smooth and yet inspiring buying experience, regardless of whether they purchase their products from us in store, by delivery, or online. But what they want above all is a reliable partner who listens to them, understands their needs, and offers solutions to help them succeed in business. That's exactly what Metro wants to be. And because this is such a broad topic, I have turned it into 2 podcast episodes. So find out in this episode and the next one how we at Metro managed to be a strong partner for our customers. Have fun with it. As part of our score growth strategy, Metro aims to strengthen customer loyalty by offering attractive prices and building a strong partnership. How we become top price leader and how we build long-term relationships with our customers on a solid basis with strategic partnership agreements, that's what you will learn in this episode of More Podcast, Wholesale to the Max. A warm welcome to all of you. I am Bernd.Rodde from Internal Communications at Metro AG and responsible for this podcast about Metro's score strategy. My guest today represents the digitalization of our business processes like no one else at Metro. He joined our company in 2014. In 2018, he took on the role of Director Digital Transformation. Then he spent some time as Chief Marketing Officer at Metro Markets, and since October last year, he has been Customer and Sales Officer at Metro AG. Welcome to my podcast, Matthias Bühler.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here, Bernd.
Great to have you here, Matthias. In your relatively new role as Metro's CSO, building close relationships with our customers is certainly more important to you than ever before. And that brings me to the question, have you already planned your next score workout? So your next chance to spend a whole working day supporting a customer in his day-to-day activities?
Yes, I have. I will actually do it hopefully still before my vacation, which is in 5 days. So I will either do it this week or immediately when I'm back from vacation. And I most likely will actually go back to the customer that I did my first score workout 2 years ago, because I want to also see the procurement part of his operation. So basically, how does he shop with Metro? What are the challenges? Because when I did my first score workout, I did everything from serving the customer to cooking in the kitchen, preparing for the evening. So I actually spent, I think, roughly 14, 15 hours with him, but in his day-to-day operations. And this time, I want to also see how he procures his goods, because obviously that is what is very relevant to us as well. And so I want to combine him with his shopping at Metro, but also to his other suppliers. That is my current plan.
Okay, and I'm sure you will find out more about our customer's business and his or her needs. Today, we want to explore how Metro intends to become the price leader in wholesale and thereby an even better partner for our customers, and also what advantages our contractually defined partnerships agreements bring for our customers and also for Metro. We will hear your thoughts on our Metro fundamentals, Matthias, and at the end of the second part of our episode, we'll hear your sound souvenir, the sound you associate with something particularly motivating or inspiring. Matthias, in your role as Customer and Sales Officer at Metro, you are responsible for a full truckload of topics with you in the driver's seat, so to speak. We certainly cannot discuss all the topics in your field today. In our pre-meeting, you mentioned that you are responsible for 2 of our 7 main score KPIs, which are?
Well, you obviously have the strategic customer share, given that it's customer and sales officer. So the strategic customer share is a KPI that I feel responsible for. And the second one is the digital sales share, because obviously all of the digital solutions that we offer to our customers, predominantly M-Shop, is also in my area of responsibility.
Yeah. And these KPIs are, more or less all factors that indicate whether we are targeting the right customers, how often they buy from us, and how also, in the end how satisfied they are with Metro. And I think there's one particular topic that is very relevant for all these points, but which many people might not initially associate with your area of responsibility, the topic of pricing. And that's what I'd like to start with. Matthias, which activities are the most important ones you are undertaking to provide support to countries in terms of pricing?
Well, in the end, there are three areas how we're supporting. The first area is the tooling. And that is probably the one that is right now the most visible one towards the organization. We're rolling out a new pricing tool. It's from Simon Kucher. It's called Dynamica. And it replaces a whole lot of other tools that we are using across countries. And the team has given itself a quite ambitious timeline, and I'm super happy right now to say that we're so far being able to adhere to that timeline. So the tooling part is one big topic right now. The second part, and obviously it normally comes before that, but I go in terms of visibility towards the organization right now, the strategic frame. In the end, it's a very, very small team, but this very small team has quite an impact on the organization, giving the frame how we do pricing locally. Because of course, in the end, pricing is done locally because we compete locally with our competitors. We have our customers locally. So pricing, how prices are set, is obviously done locally. And we, from a central perspective, also co-creating with the countries, are providing a frame. Things like buy more, pay less, EDLP, and the likes. And that is, so to speak, the fundament. And then the third thing that we're providing is analytical support. So we provide certain analysis on a monthly basis, be it things like, okay, what's actually our CIP share? So the share of customer individual prices that we provide. Or how does our BMPL actually work? What's the accessibility of those BMPL tiers that we're setting up? What's the share of BMPL sales? And if we do changes, and that's something that I think is also appreciated by the countries, if we change the BMPL setup, we also provide some KPIs on, okay, is it working or is it also not working?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's directly stay with this topic, BMPL, so buy more, pay less, and everyday low price, EDPL. So volume discounts and general price reductions. How do your efforts contribute to BMPL and EDPL in order to achieve Metro's goal of price leadership?
So as just mentioned, so the one thing is setting a frame, and in the end, providing guidance in terms of like, for which categories or which type of products does it make sense to do BMPL, and for what products is it better advised to do EDLP, so everyday low price products. And then the analytical support on the back of it, and I'll just give you a very practical example. So if we have a product, and for that product we set the tiers, so the buy more, pay less tiers in a country, we then look at, did the reduction in price between tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 2 and tier 3, are those reductions relevant enough in order to change the behavior of the customer? And if it is relevant enough to change the behavior of the customer, does it actually make economical sense for us? Because it might be that customers buy more, but after all, Metro has less absolute income. So we will support with analytics to say, look, here it might make sense to reduce the gap between tier 2 and tier 3, or tier 1 and tier 2, or maybe also the bundle is not the best bundle possible. And that's something that we support the countries with.
Yeah, and since you are the person who have the best overview, what is your assessment? So how well do these concepts already work in the Metro and Marco countries?
As most of the time, it depends. So in the end, I think generally speaking, it's fair to say that they work, and that they work for us as a wholesaler. And we can see that also a bit with crying eye, because we can see that competitors are copying our efforts in selected countries already. And that basically tells us we're doing the right thing. And then the next question is, how can we keep it sustainable in the long run? Because obviously we don't want to start a race to the bottom where we need to go more and more aggressive step by step. So what is the right a balance between being aggressive in the market and also being funded by suppliers, which is very, very important and an important part of the exercise. And at the same point in time, also keeping it sustainable and not deteriorating our margin.
Yeah, and are these examples also, what you would name as the problems which are still existing in the implementation and also the execution of BMPL and EDPL?
So I would say, to be fair, the biggest challenge is if we blindly copy things from one place to the other, because there is a frame, but there still needs to be intelligence put into the implementation. So you cannot do the exact same thing in, let's take two extreme examples, in France that you do in Romania. Does the concept per se work in both countries? Yes, but obviously local realities need to be taken into consideration. So I would say, generally speaking, the concepts work and they are applicable across all countries, but they need to be locally adapted in order to be relevant for the market and also for the starting point of the country.
Yeah, and if you put intelligence to that topic, do you speaking about human or also artificial intelligence?
Well, to be fair, up until today, I talk about human intelligence. I talk about all of our colleagues that locally work in the pricing teams, in the buying organizations, obviously also the central team around Lalit, because, I mean, in the end, they're the experts on the topic. And obviously, we're looking into how AI can help. To be fair, we all know that right now AI is quite a buzzword, I would almost say. There is a lot of things that we can do already with advanced analytics that we're not doing as of today. But yes, we're also looking, as part of this general AI acceleration initiative, we're looking into how can we also leverage that for pricing.
Yeah, and what would you say, what role will digital tools play in pricing in the future?
Twofold. I'm always careful because in Metro we tend to, and it's a generalization, but we tend to always talk about going to the moon, and we forget that we first need to walk and run where we are. So we've seen in the past, we try to do a lot about pricing optimization, using price elasticities, optimizing the long tail, implementing tools that do that automatically for us. And we're now on purpose going away from that and basically saying, no, what our customers need is wholesale pricing, because the whole price elasticity, optimizing the long tail, is a classical retail topic. And we on purpose said, no, our tools are BMPL, EDLP, and of course we still also optimize the long tail, but there is limited point in putting that as a priority. So that's the one part. Then the other part is within the tools that we've chosen, so BMPL, EDLP, of course, there's a lot of things that we can do in terms of automizing decision-making, optimizing step by step in order to find the right quantities, find the right discount levels. There's no discussion that there's a lot of opportunity.
Attractive wholesale prices are a key factor in convincing our customers to buy from Metro, and I guess they play also a role in the partnership agreements that we have with our customers. Matthias, could you start by explaining what these partnership agreements involve?
Absolutely, and it's a pleasure to explain it because I think there's a lot of different understandings, and we'll probably cover that in the next couple of minutes as well. So I start with what we aspire it to be, and then we should probably also investigate a bit like what it is today. So what we aspire it to be is basically a one-to-one agreement with our customers. So you have with every customer an agreement where you cover various topics that define our relationship. And it's things like...
It's a contract. So
it's a contract. In the end, it's a contract. It's an agreement where we basically say, okay...
But it's written on paper.
Which is written on paper, which is signature in the end, where we basically define things like the CIPs. So what customer individual prices do we provide to you? What are potential discounts that you get on top of these custom individual prices? Do you get credit terms? Yes or no? And other benefits that the customer might get. But what is also and equally important is what does the customer commit to in return to getting all of these benefits? So how much sales will the customer do with us? Also in which categories? Because if we, let's take an example, only have a sales agreement and the customer then is an FSD customer and buys predominantly low value per kilogram articles, we might actually lose money. The customer fulfills his commitment. So we need to be also one level more precise on, okay, what do you commit towards? Which categories do you commit towards us in which time frame? And what do we, again, commit against on the other side, like the delivery windows and service levels and so on and so forth. So in the end, it's an agreement that defines our collaboration. And one of our colleagues always says, I'm more than happy to give half of the benefit to our customers, but the other half also needs to go to Metro, because otherwise it's a non-sustainable situation. And that's what a partnership agreement is supposed to be. It's a contract with our customer. It's a one-to-one contract that defines this individual customer relationship.
Yeah, maybe we can do this a little bit more concrete and to the point. So what advantages do they offer, these partnership agreements, to our customers and also to Metro?
Let me start with Metro. So to Metro, it, number one, ensures that our customer relationships are profitable by design. Because one of the challenges that we are seeing, and I mean, Christian Götz and team do specifically in the FSD area, do a fabulous job in making it transparent via the customer matrix, which of our customers we actually earn money with. And there are also still a lot of customers that we actually don't earn money with, where we basically have higher costs than income in the end. So for Metro, it's better plannability. And at the same point in time, it's also better plannability for the customer, because the customer knows exactly what he or she needs to do in order to get CIPs, in order to get year-end rebates, in order to get other subsidies, Salesforce support, all these type of things. So the benefit is mutual. To be fair, as of today, very often we provide the benefit to our customers and are not strong enough in asking for the benefit that we need on the flip side. And that is something that we can also see in our results, despite the fact that we obviously also see already quite a lot of positive improvements in these customer profitabilities.
Mm-hmm. What are the overall strategic objectives we are aiming at with the partnership agreements, particularly for the growth of our FSD business?
One thing is the growth of our FSD business, because that's one of the things that the colleagues are also keep on saying, and I can 100% agree to that. We have so much potential within our existing customer base to grow sales and to grow sales thereby sustainably. So it's, of course, sales growth on the one hand side, and on the other hand side, it's the improvement of profitability, and not only total income profitability, but in the end, cash profit or contribution margin per customer, and then in total.
Are there specific targets for this business year, for example, of the enhancement of these partnership agreements?
So there are specific targets on the FSD P&L. There are no very specific targets on the partnership agreements, and that comes towards what do we define as partnership agreements? Because if you would ask how many partnership agreements do we have today, it very much depends on what we count as a partnership agreement. I'll give you an example. So we have a very successful country with Macro Spain right now that has a program that is called Macro Plus. Mm-hmm. Now, depending on who you would ask, either Macro Plus, every customer that has a Macro Plus contract, because it's also a contract, it's also signed by the customer and by Metro, or Macro in this case. The question now is that a partnership agreement, or is it a general agreement with a customer that doesn't cover all of the characteristics that I defined at the beginning? So in my perspective, it is a very, very good starting point, but it's not yet a partnership agreement, because it's not one-to-one. There are a lot of rather general agreements where you have a big group of customers that have the same agreement. And we want to really go to a one-to-one approach with our customers. And then we have countries piloting the partnership agreement, as I defined it before. Portugal is piloting, Ukraine is piloting, there are a couple of other countries also piloting. And there we first need to learn. It's relatively new to Metro and also to our customers that we do this. So in the end, what we agreed also with the commercial board was it is a priority this year. It is a priority to define the concept that has happened. And we've signed off, yes, this is what we mean when we say partnership agreement. But we also said we now need to go country by country, understand what is the starting position, because sometimes you might be able to leapfrog from having no partnership agreement whatsoever to immediately the target state in other places where, example, given in Spain, where you already have a kind of partnership agreement, you don't want to lose that benefit that it gives to you and your customers by now forcing going into something different ad hoc, just by like in German, I don't know whether it's an English saying, by Order die Mufti, like by top down saying you by obligation you now have to do this. So we don't want to do that. So it's a country by country topic.
So we have some kind of standardized partnership agreements from corporate. And then you try, of course, to roll out to
it's not, and to be fair, it's a bit like with the pricing. It's not a standardized partnership agreement from corporate. It's these are the dimensions that should be covered. But for example, it should cover the general terms and conditions of the collaboration. That is something that the local legal teams will provide. It's not something that I provide or is a central team provides here. What we provide is saying like, look, this is what in the definition of a partnership agreement should be included. Another example, CIPs, we already talked about a number of times. For CIPs, what we're saying is like, look, it should be mentioned that there is an appendix of CIPs, but partnership agreements should typically have a duration of 6 to 12 months. So it gives us planability and the customer planability. CIPs might not always be 6 or very often not 6 to 12 month long agreements. So there's an appendix saying there are CIPs, and then we adjust them as we go.
Hey guys, have you already heard about Metro's Super Scorer campaign? Every day, our colleagues put their heart and soul into making sure that everything runs smoothly at Metro and Makro, whether in our stores, in the depots, in Salesforce, customer service, or in administration. With Who is your Super Scorer? We want to say thank you to these everyday heroes and put them in the spotlight. My personal Super Scorer candidate is my colleague Eva, who always comes up with such great campaigns and implement them with a lot of creativity and even more passion. In doing so, she spread our Metro fundamentals worldwide among all Metro people. And now it's your turn to nominate your silent hero, team player or role model. Simply click on the link in the show notes, write 2 sentences explaining your choice and send it in by 29th of August. Let's go. Show us who gives their all at Metro. A trusting partnership and reliable teamwork are not only extremely important to our customers, but also to us as Metro people. Our Metro fundamentals contribute to this in particular and play a key role here. And Matthias, let's find out what you think about our corporate values with our little fundamentals questionnaire. Are you ready for it, Matthias?
Yes, I am.
Then let's get started. Here is the first question. Which of the 5 fundamentals is your favorite one?
My favorite fundamental is One Metro.
Why?
In the end, One Metro helps all of us to bridge the gaps that we're having. I'm with Metro now for 11 years. And one of the things that I always tell people also when I interview people for joining Metro, or when people ask me, why are you with Metro for 11 years? Is that I tell them that generally speaking in Metro, nobody's ill-intended. Like I had the opportunity 7 years to work as a consultant before, and I worked in various different companies. And one of the things that is really strong about Metro is that it's a bit politically incorrect, but the quota of assholes in Metro is lower than in other companies, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that we don't disagree at times. That does not mean that there is friction between people. But in the end, we always want the same thing. And that, I think, is something that this One Metro spirit really encompasses. And it's something that helps us, even though it was to a certain extent, it was there before, but it helps that we can make it outspoken. And if there is conflicts, that we can reference back to, look, I understand that from your perspective and from your country, your function, or whatever's perspective, this would be best for you. But let's take a step back and look at it. What's best for us overall as a company? And there are examples like we in the area of Tino Hölters, marketing automation. We have a joint provider for SMS. And obviously the prices for every sent SMS differ per country. And we might have countries, or not, we will have countries that suddenly have higher costs. But if you look at it for total metro, the costs go down. And then being able to reference back to saying like, look, we understand that this is frustrating for you as an individual country, that you now have a higher cost, but overall we have a lower cost. And the same can be true for common sourcing. The same can be true for various areas where if we take a step back and look at it, we realize, if we think one metro, what we're doing makes actually a lot of sense.
Yeah. And we keep in mind that the quota of assholes at Metro is much lower than maybe in other companies.
There's another one, and I use that with team. There's this, that the more politically correct one is the people that you would like to drink a beer with.
I think the first version is perfect. Okay. Where in your working environment do you think simplification is most needed?
I think there's a lot of areas where we can still do a lot of simplifications. My feeling is that we're trying to track and report too many things. That is something that it's always a balance to strike, because I can understand from a managerial perspective that you want to be more in control. And specifically in times when things are not going so well, this need for being in control gets bigger. At the same point in time, it obviously also burdens the organization. The more tracking, the more reporting one needs to provide. So from a simplification perspective, I think sometimes we are steering too many KPIs that in the end kind of target the same thing. So simplifying our KPI set is probably one of the things that would help. At the same point in time, it's again one of those things where we as one metro need to then also agree on what are the KPIs. One example that I always like to give is when I rejoined Metro AG, my team in the sales excellence area shared with me that they tried to collect the main KPIs to be displayed in SAM. And they came up based on surveying the countries with 125 different KPIs.
Okay.
And then you can obviously say, well, if those are, because KPI is key performance indicator, if you come up with 125 key performance indicators, that's probably a bit too much. And then trying to get to a common agreement, what are really the key performance indicators, will help all of us.
And then let's go a step further. What would you like to abolish because it had no impact so far? Maybe beside the many, many KPIs.
Abolish. I have to pass on that one. I need to think about it a bit. I will come back to it later.
Yeah. Fair enough. Then next one. How do you create an open working environment where your colleagues can bring our fundamentals to life?
So one thing that I always try to do is I try to delegate responsibility to people. I know also that I can be a pain to my colleagues at times because I'm rather detail-oriented. So I want to understand things. So yes, I delegate, but I still want to understand the things. So in terms of open and innovative work environment, I would say I provide freedom. And at the same point in time, I also provide sparring so that people can actually discuss content with me. And so if they need help, they know where to find me.
Okay. Then coming back to the first question and your favorite fundamental, which 3 words best describe one metro to you?
Togetherness, fun, progress.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Matthias. Now we know what's important to you in terms of our Metro fundamentals and how you deal with it. But that's not enough about you, of course. We want to find out a little more, and therefore we will listen to your sound souvenir later in the next episode. But now we already have a quick listen to make it a little more exciting. And once again. Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. So, normally I would now refer you, dear colleagues, to the resolution of our little mystery of Matthias' sound souvenir at the end of this episode. But with one eye on the clock and the other on my list of questions, which still has so many topics we need to discuss, I would like to say, let's finish here and save the rest and also your sound souvenir, Matthias, for the next episode. Okay with you?
Very well.
Then I'd like to thank you, Matthias, very much for joining this episode. Thanks for now. I'm looking forward to the second part when we talk about the digitalization of our business and sales processes and also Metro's digital marketing. Dear colleagues, you will find the second part shortly, as usual, on United and wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, if you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to contact me via Teams or email. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye and take care.